I am your host, Danielle Mims. Welcome to Think Like a Kid, the podcast that helps parents and teachers stop guessing and start teaching the way kids actually learn. After working with hundreds of kids, I can promise you this: one-size-fits-all learning doesn't work. It's time to stop making kids fit the system and start shaping learning around the child. Each week, you'll get quick wins, creative ideas, and brain-based strategies to make learning hands-on and fun again. So whether you're in the classroom, the car, or halfway through your coffee, I am so glad you're here. Let's think like a kid. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Think Like a Kid. We have a bonus episode today. We have Courtney English with us, and we are so honored to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I
So
love
could
hanging
you
out with
tell us a
you.
little bit about who you are, what you do, all the things?
Okay, so I am a pediatric occupational therapist and a mom to two girls. My oldest is 5 years old and my youngest is 11 months old. She's going to be one at the end of May, which is crazy.
Crazy. I feel like
Crazy.
you just had her.
I know, right? I'm like, I have all these emotions, but I'm like too busy, you like forget and then all of a sudden it hits you. But yeah, anyway, so I'm a mom of two. I used to work before I had Daniela, my first. I used to be an OT in hand therapy. And then when I had her, I was like really into all the developmental stuff. And I just kind of sensed that she needed some more support just by like her affect and such and just motor development. I was like, I need to go back to like my peds books or whatever. I got really into it, and then I ended up switching into private practice with pediatric OT. And then I started to realize that there was like this gap missing between like clinical sessions and then, carrying over at home. And so I just started like creating content online. And then I started to, I guess my own business kind of happened on its own just through sharing, and I just started to develop programs just like you. Like you're like, oh, this is what people need. I'll just develop something for them. So yeah, I just help parents support their child's development, specifically with the foundation of good nervous system regulation, sensory regulation, and all of that. So that's me.
Yeah, I think you do such a good job too of like, breaking it down so people can understand instead of just like all the technical stuff. And then you do a really good job of explaining it. Funny story actually. So when I started Steam Made Simple, I had my husband Aaron like on my Instagram, like he would have it on his phone and I'm like, "Hey, help me post reels," or "I don't know what I'm doing," kind of thing. And then he came across your page and he was like, "Oh my gosh, I think this is my friend Courtney."
Oh
And I
my
was like,
gosh, I remember when he
"Yeah."
messaged me through your thing, and I was like, wait,
Yeah, and I
I
was like,
know you.
"Really?" Like, reach out and ask her how I do this, or, or whatever. And so he reached out and you, of course, were just so sweet and like he quickly got out of the picture and we became
I was
fast
like, let me
friends.
talk to Danielle. Nice to see you. Nice to talk to you, Erin, but where's Danielle?
I know, it was so great, and I just thank you so much for all of your help with the whole Instagram getting started. You were
Oh,
definitely a huge mentor to me and then such a dear friend. So I thank you for all of that support and thank you for all that you do for all the parents and the educators online by just sharing. Just even watching your content alone is such free, incredible value, and then you offer so many different resources too for families.
thank you. Same to you. And you've done a great job. Now I'm like, I need you. I know that I like helped you at the beginning just with the basic like content stuff, but now like you're like rolling and you're going and I'm like, I need help from you. 'Cause
Oh my
you're
gosh, you're so
busy. We need to like come together, us moms.
Yes, we definitely do. Okay. And I will definitely link your Instagram and your website and all those things down below in the show notes so you guys can check her out. Because if you're not following her, mistake. She is like a genius. Like her zone of genius is definitely regulation and dysregulation and really supporting a child through sensory and figuring out what they need so that they can communicate, so that they can learn, so that they can just thrive in everyday life. So I kind of want to just jump into meltdowns and like, because that's what all parents see, right? We get overstimulated and we see kids throwing fits and tantrums and meltdowns, but you have this OT, occupational therapy lens. So I want you to kind of talk to us about like why that happens and give us a little bit of insight of how we can help ourselves through when our kids flip their lid.
Yes. So the one thing that parents always ask me is like, what do I do when my child's having a meltdown? And so for me, when I hear that, I think of like, well, like you really have to do things before or like be proactive to prevent meltdowns from happening because meltdowns happen when the nervous system has already shifted into this like threat state and a threat response. So at that point, we really can't do anything but, and everyone says it's like co-regulate in the moment. Like you have to just start to bring them back to safety. So like inserting a strategy or something during that time really is the wrong time because now all of a sudden you're speaking to your child and they're not really processing anything that you're saying. In fact, it's more of a threat to try to process what you're saying because I don't feel safe right now. Like if you think about it, like if you've ever been like, have you ever been, like, nervous on a flight? I always use this example because I used to be, like, a fearful flyer. Like, if it's, like, you're in really bad turbulence and all of a sudden someone's trying to have a conversation with you, you're like, I can't talk to you right now. Like, I just have to focus on, like, being calm because I'm nervous right now," or, you can't access that level in your brain. So, the big thing about meltdowns is preventing them from happening through proactive regulation. That's the first one. So, proactive regulation. The second thing is teaching them strategies in a neutral time, in a neutral setting, and I know I've seen you talk about this too, so that they can learn the skill to access it when they're starting to pick up dysregulation. And then the third is just to know what dysregulation feels like in their body, know what their triggers are, and know what strategies they like and enjoy and find calming or organizing or regulating, what however you want to say it. So really it's three things. It's proactive regulation, preventing the meltdown, having the skill, learning the skill so that you can access it. And then 3, knowing when you're starting to get dysregulated or being able to predict when you may become dysregulated. So you already have like a plan. Like, okay, when I start to feel like this, when I start to get hot and I feel like something's not right and I'm starting to get like these emotions, I feel like I'm starting to creep up on this really big dysregulation. Now I'm going to do something before. So that's kind of how I explain meltdowns and just basic large overview of kind of where you can start.
Absolutely, and I think, a lot of times we just kind of want them to stop or the meltdowns or the tantrums, but it
Yeah.
does take a lot of proactive and I think
It's
to
so
give
dysregulating for us. It's
No,
like,
for
"No, no, no,
sure.
stop. I can't handle this. This too many
Yes,
emotions."
yes, and
Yeah.
there's been times where I've just had to, like, walk away, and my kids know those big words and stuff, and I'm like,
Mhm.
"I've had to regulate myself so I'm not yelling at you," to be
That's okay.
honest, like,
Yes.
because I'm human too, and, like,
Yeah.
just talking that through with them.
Yeah, because yelling for as a parent, it's like a fight or flight response. It's like, I don't know what else to do. Like, I have to like yelling is what's happening right now. That's like my behavior as like and the parent and the adult. Sometimes we can't slow down to gather our thoughts to really know, okay, like how can I help bring this dysregulation down or help organize this so that we can both like find peace and calmness together. It's really hard to get there sometimes as a parent. So
Yeah,
that's why it's good for you to proactively know what's good for you. I know what helps me. And I already know like during the week, I'm like, oh, we have more things going on. So I'm going to be a little bit more dysregulated because I'm going to be need to be more organized. I'm going to have a better system. I'm going to, you know, have to take some time and plan out or have help. So those,
absolutely.
we do that as adults. It just looks different because as you know, children's occupation is play. And then learning, school, play, learning, that's their occupation. So it looks different than adults.
Yes, I totally agree, and I think it's also hard because we're living in a world of we just want, like, everything to happen instantly, but
Mhm.
to give hope, teaching these skills, no, it's not gonna happen overnight, but it does click, and it's the most rewarding thing ever for when, like, your kid is just I'm like, "Hey, what are you doing?" And they're just like, I'm just doing some deep breaths really quick," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh," and, like, I've seen it with my students too because, you always wonder when I'm teaching my kids, does it actually like does it stick? And it does. It eventually, if you're consistent with it, if you model it, right? They see me doing it, that's gonna make them learn it faster, and it will eventually
Yes.
happen in real time.
And the less pressure you give and the more you just normalize doing it, like you said, through modeling or through just like doing it playfully with your child, the more that they'll start to pick up on, "Oh, like, this is what my body needs. This is what I need." It's so funny when you said that because it reminded me of what Daniela did the other day. And I did post about it. Is she started saying like she was doing something Oh, we were on a walk and she was tired, so she was like, "I need a break, I need to sit down," and I have that, like, stroller that, like, that has a seat, and she was sitting down, and all of a sudden she was like, "I'm doing my Paris right now," and I was like, "Your Paris?" Like, "What's Paris?" And I, like, looked at my husband, I was like, "What's Paris?" And he's like, "I don't know," and I was like, "Parasympathetic nervous system." She hears me talk about it all the time, and she was like, "This is my Paris." She's like, "You go like this." And she put her arms up and down, and we don't even really practice it that way, but I'm sure
Wow.
she's, like, like, adding all these different things in together and making it her own, what works for her, and she was like, "What should we do next?" She's like, "How about rainbows?" She's like, "How about crossing your arms across your I mean, she was just, like, going at it, and I mean, I was, like, personally, like, I was, like I felt, like, really happy in that moment. I was like, "Yes, like, finally, like, she's picking up on it." And then she started teaching her cousins it on vacation too, which was really, like, fun and cute and also, like, funny at the same time, and she was like, "We're doing Paris right now." I was like, "Okay, Paris. I gotta, like, trademark that." So
I know, right? And I'm glad even if you didn't write this moment down, now it's documented on a podcast because that's so cool to have, and her teaching her cousins, that actually makes her learn it even more at a deeper
yes,
level.
yes. So, yeah, you're right. It's really about and I think sometimes too with, like, younger kiddos, when you try to, like, do so much, like, "Okay, like, breathe in and breathe out." It's like sometimes it's a hard motor plan, and sometimes other things are hard motor plans or, like, skills to learn, so when you add the play in, like, you do a lot of that with, like, your whole program and what your whole account is about, like, adding in the play, adding in the purpose, adding in the structure, adding in the opportunity to discover things. I think that that's where I know that's where real learning happens, and if we're just doing, sitting, not adding a movement or sitting, and we're just doing a lot of like instructions verbally, it's not really gonna process for the kids. It doesn't
Mhm.
process for me verbally. I have to like see it, do it, feel it. That's how I
We
learn.
all do, and we just don't realize it.
That's true.
Something that you just reminded me of that's helped me because I have well, my first 2 boys are very stubborn, and, like, if I can sense they're about to, flip their lid or get dysregulated, and I'm just like, "Hey, let's do a strategy," they'd be like, "No, I'm not doing" all that kinda
Yeah.
stuff, but something that you did that I've done with one of my kids works great. I don't know if you can think of it yet. You've done it with Daniela, but if I want the what?
The don't blow me over game?
That's a good one, and the candles. So can you
Yes, the candle.
show those?
Yes. Oh, the blowing the candles out?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes.
well, I don't do the candles very much. I just do the don't blow me over.
You
Like, for
don't
me,
well, I
I've seen
learned
a
the
lot of people do
candles
the
from
candle.
you.
You did? When
Yeah,
did
so,
a
like,
while ago.
Kaysen, I knew he was about to have, like, a meltdown, and I was just like, I remembered one of your videos, and I was like, "My gosh, I have 3 candles, and they won't go out," and I just turned it
Yeah.
into a game, and that will help him, like
Yeah. The problem, like, they won't go out, like, that's a big thing too. Adding in that, like, how can you be the helper to help me? Or, like, this is your job. I don't know. Now I need you to help, and then all of a sudden, that top brain comes back online, right? But I did the tower breathing and then the candles too. But
Mhm,
everything this is one of the things too that I wanna teach parents is that these things evolve into so much more based on, like, how you do it with your kid and how they respond. So, like, people are always like, "Oh, so only these 12 strategies or 16 strategies from your poster." I'm like, "Well, in my educational videos that come with the posters, it talks about how you can evolve them because tower breathing and candle breathing has turned into like don't blow me over or like when we were on vacation I had to use it because, vacation's exciting, which can mean some dysregulation because it may not be exactly how we thought or whatever. So it was like a rainy day and the kids were inside and they were all out of sorts and they were fighting over something silly, right? Because they're like, "Oh, I want this." So there's only one of them or whatever. And so everyone was like upset. Danielle started crying. I was like, "Well, whatever you do, don't blow me over because it's already raining. And if you blow me over, there's going to be a tornado." And so she started blowing. And then I was like, and I like put my hair up in the air
yeah,
and then we're all like laughing because like it's funny that I'm doing that because I don't do that ever. And I'm like, I'm spinning around. I was like, "You're blowing so hard that I'm spinning." And like that just evolved from like tower breathing, candle breathing, don't blow me over. But now we're using breath work for play. And now that's like another little part in their brain like, "Oh, I remember when I breathe like that, that helps me feel calm." So we don't even need to always be playful. Like sometimes we can just, do our breathing. Like she was like, "I'm doing my Paris," because I think the reason why Daniela was doing Paris on our little going back to like the the stroller walk where she needed to sit down is because she was, like, kind of feeling hot and overwhelmed, and I've told her that when your body feels hot, this is, like, another interoceptive thing is when your body feels hot, you can do something to cool it down because sometimes it can be uncomfortable to feel hot if we're, like, running around and we feel really hot, and that turns on our sympathetic nervous system, right? Like, side note. So, we can do breathing that cools our body down, we can take a sip of cool water. Sometimes, like, I'll have a popsicle if we're at home, like, "Let's just take a break and have a popsicle outside," or something like that. We know all those things activate the opposite of fight or flight. So, sorry, I just got
I
a
love those
little.
examples, and I'm glad that we went on our little stories because I just remembered that too. So, I guess since we're talking about meltdowns and tantrums, and this podcast is all about the perspective of a child and thinking like a kid. So, if a kid, let's say 4 or 5, is having an epic meltdown, maybe they just got home from school and they're just screaming and crying, they probably, like, masked all day and they're just
Yeah, internalize the
yes.
dysregulation.
So, what do you think obviously, a kid can't say like, "Oh, I'm feeling this in this moment," right? But if they could, what would you say, like, how we could think like a kid? What do you think this child would want an adult to know about them in that moment?
Well, first of all, I would think that it's like, okay, like, it's kinda like if you put yourself in that position, like, when you come home from work or when you before you had kids, when you come home from work, like, what did you like to do? Like, you don't wanna answer a lot of questions. You didn't want a lot of demands, like, you just kinda wanted to organize yourself, whether you just, like, maybe take a shower or whatever you do as an adult. So, like, for me, I think of kids as, like, okay, like, how can we lower the demand when we get home or even when we get in the car, where we're not, like, maybe asking so many questions or being like, "Well, what did you learn?" or "What did you do?" or "Did you have an accident?" or "Did you eat a snack? What'd you eat for snack?" Like, how can we lower the demand and maybe, like, have something set up or have, like, an opportunity for them to do something that you see them doing all the time that regulates them, whether that's, like, coming home and having a snack or a cool drink of water or whatever, milk, juice, whatever you're giving your kids, like, how can you set that up to kinda, like, balance out their bucket from being overwhelmed? So that's how I think of it. I think of it all the time of like, okay, like I remember I used to come home from work and all of a sudden like my necklace is tight and like so maybe like we need to change clothes, right? Maybe we need to get in comfier clothes. How can we change change all of the things? I just think about that, especially because like your kids mirror you a lot, right? So even like Daniela, sometimes it's the sound. 'Cause for me, like, the sounds overwhelm me when I come home sometimes and, like, my husband's on speakerphone talking, which is, like, fine, whatever. But I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, that echo is really bothering me." So sometimes even, like, just, putting on, like, headphones with, like, a music that's rhythmic, thinking of all those things to, like, really speak to the nervous system to kind of reorganize it after having a lot going on. Even if it's just like resting on the couch with a blanket and a book or even a show that you know that they like. It doesn't have to be like, you know, no screen, no like time for that because sometimes kids need to unwind that way. Like balance though and small doses for all that stuff. Like I never recommend screens for regulation, but like you just
Mhm.
think of all the different options and how you can create the perfect recipe or like opportunity for them to like get to a more balanced space and open to doing things, going
I like
outside.
that you said recipe. I'm like a huge analogy person, and I think it's
Mhm.
just focusing on like what do they normally gravitate to? What can you have? I mean, all of my kids get overwhelmed by
Mhm.
a lot of verbal instruction, right? So like how can you strip down some of those demands and if coloring helps them, then you have a coloring book ready to go with like a crunchy apple or something like
Yeah.
that, like
Yes,
having those stuff available.
exactly, like snack and activity or like the other day, like when we got home, I did like the we did like the fizzy, baking
Yeah.
soda vinegar activity and she had like a juice box and I was like, "Oh, we can do that today." It was like a day or two ago, I can't remember, but I knew that those two things were going to help kind of balance her out. Even if it's just going outside and doing chalk or whatever. One thing that I did start doing though on the days what if I notice like there's a pattern of her being dysregulated after picking her up from school, I started this like surprise box thing where like I have this little box. She got it from the Scholastic Book Fair. Like she came home with this like box that had like things in it. And I was like, I gotta like use this for something else because we're not using it. Like we didn't get, she got books, but she got a couple of the things, which is fine. But I started putting, like, things in it, so I'd have, like, a crunchy, chewy snack, a fidget toy, that kinda stuff, and some stickers or, like, stickers in a little book, a little sticker book where she could put the stickers in, or sometimes even in the notepads, like, I'll have, like, a notepad or, like, a journal, and I've, like, done, like, a little maze that she has to figure out or, like, complete, and sometimes it'll be like, "Oh, you can complete it, and when you get to the end, like, you get your surprise," and whatever that surprise is. Sometimes they're like, "The surprise is we're going to get, like, a macaroon, or we're going to the park," or, like, you could really make it your own, but, like, by having those special things and making things special, it doesn't have to be a lot, can really make them feel connected to you, like, you're like, "I really thought about you," I'm thinking about you, I'm connected.
Mhm.
I just did that actually this morning before I came up here to get on this podcast with you. It was with my daughter and she was with my husband, and I ordered my husband a coffee and I was like, "Oh, I don't wanna just give him the coffee," like, so I got her a little milk box, or it's not a juice box, but the milk in the little cartons with the straw.
Yeah.
Like, brought them to them both at the same time. I was like, "Here's your, coffees, guys," and
Uh,
Danielle's so cool, we're having, like, a drink together,
yeah.
we're having
You're
coffee
such a
together.
good
I
mama.
know,
That's so
really,
cute.
it becomes like a I just
Yeah.
think, like, it just becomes a thing where you start to think of how can I make just a little special, you know? And
Yeah.
that's those little glimmers that keep that top brain online where it's like, "Oh, I still feel connected. I still feel like this is a special fun day, even if it's just, like, something really small." It's almost like
Mhm.
I say this all the time, like, you're the actress or, like, you're, like, like, you kinda have to be, like, on your acting game
Yeah.
sometimes,
You
you know?
totally do, and, like, there's been moments where I have, like, the most exciting action-packed day with my boys, and they've done all these things. They got candy or they went to a trampoline place, they did all these things, and you ask, like, the best part of their day, and it's normally a connection piece where it was like, "Oh,
Mhm.
when you chased me around the house," or, like,
Yes.
when you were pretending to be a monster, like,
Yes.
those things
I
mean so
love
much
that.
more. Yeah, and a lot of parent I didn't even really realize this because like, we obviously have the background in with children and education and stuff like that, but a lot of parents don't like to, get on their level and play, and it's like, even if you just do, like, little bursts of moments of, like, 5 minutes here and there, fake it till you make it, and it just means so much to them, and it
It really
helps regulate
does.
them too.
But I feel like once you start doing it, you actually like it. Like,
Yeah.
I've realized, like, sometimes it's just about getting into the routine of being playful during little moments throughout the day. Whether it's, like, when you're serving your breakfast or you're like, "Well, I hope I don't spill your plate. Oh, there it is," that's it. That's
Mhm.
all you gotta do. Just a little something silly, you know?
And I'm so glad we're talking about this because that's kinda like the whole premise of the podcast,
Yes.
right? Is, like, to get back to our inner child because we're all in this, like, fast-paced world, and we
It's
have
threatening.
these little beings that are just amazing, and if we just focus on everything that they're not doing, it just becomes so much harder, but there's little tweaks and
Yes.
little things that we can do to enjoy parenting and, like, just raise a happy kiddo.
I even realized that with, like, Gracie because I was becoming overwhelmed with, like, managing both kids at once, and I was like, I don't have to have something separate for Danielle to do, like, we can just do something together." So we just started, like, just doing some floor time, and I, like, brought out the tunnel, and, like, Gracie was crawling in the tunnel, and Daniela got in the tunnel, and then, like, they were, like, rolling around the tunnel, and then I was just, like, laughing because it was just funny, and they were all laughing, and then we were just all laughing because we were laughing, and then everyone just started being a little silly, like, Gracie was, like, going like this, I mean, like, reacted, and then we'd be like, "Look at what she's doing. She said bee. She saw a bee," like this little bee toy. And all of a sudden, just because you allow that little moment that you might be like, "Oh, stop, like, let's not be too crazy," or whatever.
Mhm.
You let that little moment be, and it can evolve into so much more.
Mhm.
You end up enjoying the time. And then I'm like, "Oh my gosh, it's already, like, time to get ready for dinner and bed." Like, that went fast, because sometimes it's like, "Oh my gosh, why is this day going so long?" It's because we're disconnected. Like you said, we're disconnected from our kids because we're not kind of living in their world. It's hard, right? Because we have a lot of stuff to do. Laundry, cleaning, blah, 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 blah. I could go on, but finding those little moments of 5 or 10 minutes after, like, nap or before nap or, like, in between transitions, I think is super, super key. I feel like there needs to be, like, a whole episode on, like, how to do that.
I know, we'll just do another episode.
So
We'll
many
just
people
keep
are like,
doing
"How
it.
do you do this?" And I'm like, "I
Yeah,
don't know, I need someone to follow me around with the camera off." I
I
don't
know.
know.
We need videographers. I'm like, I don't like just balancing my phone up and recording
I
myself.
know. I'm like, start recording, and then you're like, "Alright, let's do this." It just doesn't feel
Yeah.
natural?
And, okay, so now I'm talking about Gracie, but babies,
Yeah.
I have found so my older 2, they fight a ton. They're
Mhm.
best friends, but they fight a ton, but, like, babies in the mix, they are actually regulating to kids.
They
So, like
are.
and it's so cool to see as
It
parents, but, like,
is.
and baby, it doesn't matter how entertaining you are. You could be like the funniest comedian in the world.
Yeah.
Your child, the bigger kid, so like Daniela,
Yeah.
is gonna be so much more hilarious to Gracie, and,
She
like and it's regulating and it's, like, rewarding for Daniela to have, like, a
yeah.
baby just think they're the
She's like,
coolest
"Look, I'm
person in the
gonna
world.
do funny dance and she's gonna laugh," and then she laughs. I'm like, "You made her laugh," and then,
Yes,
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 you're right, like, it really does boost their, like, confidence and it boosts their connection. Because sometimes when you have a baby, it's like, oh, all the tension's on the baby, but if you bring everyone into it and make everyone
together.
all together, it's that creating a
Yeah,
sense of togetherness, which I learned from another OT,
yeah.
taking her, like, co-regulation courses because they're amazing, and I always like to credit her, Katie Crosby.
Yes, and I love how you said, like, "Oh, don't be too crazy, don't do this." Like, kids will figure it out, like, they totally do, and my kids never really had that, like, jealousy towards the baby because we just always did we're all in the trenches together. "I
Together.
need diapers, someone go get me diapers," and, the baby needs, like, tummy time, I don't want the baby to cry, so I need you to, entertain the baby, and it just becomes
Yeah,
like we're all in this together, and
it's so true.
I could totally have a whole I'm obsessed
I
with
know.
babies, like, I just stare if they're at the restaurant, I just stare at them, I just
Oh,
love
they're
babies so
so
much.
cute, you, like, wonder what's going on in their brain. But you're right. Another thing playful too is, like, I always tell parents, like, what do they think about what they watch, like, the shows that they watch or the type of play that they engage in, and then, like, insert it into having them be the helper. So for Daniela,
Yes.
when I needed her to get me, like, wipes or a diaper, I was like, she likes Gabby's Dollhouse, and I'd be like, "Oh, Kitty Rangers, we need your help," Kitty Rangers, and then I,
I
like,
do that
sing
with
a
Paw
song.
Patrol.
Yeah,
And I,
yeah,
like
and then
I
she's
have
like
my pretend phone, and I'm like, "Boo-doo-doo, boo-doo-doo." Right. Is that yes, Paw Patrol, and I do it, and they eat it up. They love it.
no,
It's
they
getting into
love
their
it,
world.
and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden they're like, "We're playing," even though, like, we're not, like, actually, like, playing, but we're playing while we live our lives, so,
Mhm. Absolutely.
yeah, let's just start a show.
I know, we should just 'cause we just talk the whole time.
I know.
Something that you do talk a lot about on your page is heavy work, and it's a game changer, especially for our sensory seeker friends, and it does help with sensory avoiders and combo kids, but could you just tell us a little bit of what heavy work is and how we can do it in our own house? And you can even do it in your own classroom if you're a teacher listening.
So, heavy work, I say this all the time, OT say, like, "When in doubt, probe it out," because proprioceptive input
I love
can be
that. Let's, like, have that on the
I know.
you know, at a
I
setup.
know, right? I've learned it from so many other OTs because when they said it, I was like, "I'll never forget that." Like, that's so catchy. But what proprioceptive input or heavy work essentially is when your joints, muscles, tendons in your body receives pressure, resistance, any type of input or stimulation to it, those proprioceptive receptors are activated and it sends really strong, clear signals to the brain for organization, for safety, for focus, to ground you. And when you are focused and grounded and organized and you have a clear signal, there's not this disorganization or like, I feel so overwhelmed. Like it helps reorganize you and ground you. It can also alert you if like you kind of have like lower affect or lower registration or lower arousal levels. And so that's why we say like when you don't know what to do, just do heavy work because we know that if they're understimulated or overstimulated, it will ground them depending on how you do it, right? As long as there's not too many demands, it's pretty simple. That's why like my favorite go-to for and it's a combo, it's like vestibular and proprioceptive, but it's like jumping and crashing. Because when you jump, you're getting vestibular input, also getting proprioceptive input through your legs because you're actively jumping. And then when you crash, you're getting like this passive, deep, large surface area input to your body. And it sends that clear signal to your brain like, here you are, here's your body, you're safe, you're grounded, you're organized, you're in that moment. You're not thinking about all these other things, you're not overwhelmed. And that's why it's so grounding. It's like almost like a clear shock to your nervous system of like, we're good. Like, let's get back on track. Let's get back to our safe, connected, engaged state. So that's like my big thing with heavy work, and obviously heavy work can be like helper. You can be the helper, help open the door, carrying things, pushing things, squeezing things, anything, pushing, pulling, climbing, anything that where your child is actively using their muscle power to perform or carry out a task or play, they're getting proprioceptive input. That's active proprioceptive input, which is heavy work. We also have like passive, which is like more of deep pressure when other people are giving you that input, or like you've weighted blanket on you. That's more passive. And so I say that active is better to do first. But if kids are getting overwhelmed because they're still moving a lot, shifting to passive can help down regulate them, which is a part of the posters that I have. It's red, meet the need, yellow, organize, and then green, calm, down regulate. Most of those calming things are deep pressure or like rhythmic linear movements that are very just, organizing. We know they're not going to overstimulate because we're not activating like our big movement centers in our body.
I love that, and so I didn't know all of that fancy terminology, but just, like, trial and
Was that
error.
too much? Was that too
No, no, but I'm saying, like, before you, I'll say, like, BC before Courtney.
oh my
So
god.
when I was in the classroom, like, whether I mean, kids are kids, right? Any child can you don't have to have ADHD to benefit from this, right? But it does help, obviously organize, and I didn't know all these fancy terminology and stuff like that, but I knew that if I wanted them to understand something, I gotta get them to stand, and we'll do, like, movements for, like, I don't even know. I'm like the first insects or something. Like, okay, head, thorax, abdomen, right? Like you're going through, but you have to like pair it with movements. Or, the kid who's constantly moving or getting called out. It's like they love being helpers. Let's boost their confidence. Let's give them a job and like let's open up the door. And without even knowing that and just experiencing with kids, I was like, I never knew why that kind of stuff worked, but you kind of put it into a great way of just like why this actually works, like what's going on in their brain. It's backed by science and data and real lived experience, and I think that's great to even just do with any child, even but yeah, the first type of kiddo that pops into my head is like a kiddo that has ADHD and might just need a little bit more movement and stuff like that.
Yes, and like we think about it as like I think about this as a mom all the time, right? Like sometimes I feel like I have ADHD because of how overwhelmed I am.
I
And
feel like I have
I love it. I
ADHD
feel like
too.
maybe I'm undiagnosed or maybe I'm just overwhelmed. But that's also with kids too. Like they may not have a diagnosis of ADHD, but you might be like, they might be having a lot of things thrown at them. So we might see that they are struggling to focus or organize themselves because of all the demands and all the new things that they're learning. And then we had a big transition. We're starting a new school. We just got done potty training are, working trying new foods. Think of all those things, even a child whose brain is, neurotypical, however you want to say, might still struggle, right, and benefit from these regulation activities. So this doesn't just, it's not geared only towards neurodivergent individuals who need more support and sensory regulation. It's every person because we all have a nervous system, we all have sensory system, we all can get disorganized, you know,
Mhm.
help with these things. When you become a
Absolutely.
mom, you become overwhelmed. That's just it.
Yeah. It's just facts, and, like, anyone who says otherwise, it's like, I don't know, we don't speak the same
Like,
language.
yeah, like maybe you have like a ton of help, which
Right, right, yeah.
we all need a ton of help.
We all need a ton of help, like, my mom and my sister just came over the other night and just did laundry, like and it was just we need 3 people to
I know.
just
You
put
do.
away laundry, it's
Yeah,
it's
I have help
insane.
with those things because I can't do it all on my own and work.
Yeah.
I
I
just
just hired cleaners because I'm like, I just it's impossible without
it
driving
is.
yourself nuts, and I wanna enjoy my kids, I wanna work on my business, I wanna do things that bring me joy.
Yes. You can't do it all or you'll just be miserable. I was feeling
Yeah,
burnt out before my vacation. I came back and I was like, I'm
same.
organized, I'm grounded. I'm gonna start to pick and choose, and I'm gonna delegate things to other people to help
Absolutely.
me so that I can do what and prioritize what's most important to me, which is hard to do because once you can get in that cycle, it's like that. You don't want to stop. You're like in sympathetic mode. You're like do 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 do. Do.
Yeah.
You can't stop because your
Yeah.
brain is stuck in a cycle. It needs, and we're stuck in that red category. It's like I go red category activities. We're stuck in the red category, and we need to organize and calm ourselves, and then figure out what's most important to us.
And I'll link those posters that she's talking about in the show
Yeah,
notes.
sorry, I'm talking about them a
You
lot
can grab
because
them.
my framework is like
No, it's
so
beautiful,
many
and I
people
and
need
I
help.
love it. Yeah, and if you're listening to this episode for, like, the launch, that's also in the giveaway, so you can potentially win.
So yes, you have to like what subscribe to the
Mhm.
podcast for it, right?
Yes. Okay, so we obviously I had so many questions, and we're not gonna get to them because we just like to chat.
No.
horror stories and stuff, but I do wanna leave parents with something that I think that you're very talented in. I want them to be able to, when they're done listening to this episode, like, go try something with their kid right away, and something that I think that we didn't get to touch on is, like, that sensory circuit, right? Or how you and I know every child's different, but what is a way that a parent can hear what you're saying and try something with their kid today to help organize their brain and just help with regulation in general?
Yes. So let's go through like a three-step sensory circuit of like it's kind of like for kids to understand like where their arousal levels at and like how to adapt to that because that's all a part of regulation, right? Is like knowing where your arousal levels at, knowing what you need to do to adapt it to down regulate and get to wherever you need to be arousal level and regulation wise so that you can participate in whatever the demand is, the activity, the environment. So let's talk about a bedtime one because we haven't talked about bedtime yet, and I do a lot of bedtime. And the thing with this is you can do this circuit, at bedtime, but you should practice it and play these things during the day earlier so that they kind of know how to do it and it's not new to figure out at bedtime. So something that you can do with your child that would only take like a minute or so is I love the blanket parachute. It was actually like one of my viral videos. That was one of the first things that people saw, and everyone was like, "I did it. It was so easy. I have a blanket. I have stuffed animals." And essentially, what you do is you pick up, each have one side of the blanket, throw some stuffed animals on top, and then shake it like a parachute. Now you can like count and you can sing a song that makes it more rhythmic. It gives it more structure, like start and stop. And that gives you a lot of good rhythmic proprioceptive input to your arms. And then you're like connecting and laughing with a caregiver. So that's like a red zone activity because we're moving a little bit more. We're laughing, we're like our arousal level is a little higher. So then the next thing that you could do, and this is all geared towards bedtime, is like, okay, like we just gave our stuffed animals a blanket parachute ride or activity or, whatever. I guess you could say activity. Now let's toss them all into the bed to tuck them in for bed. So then like you're doing a throwing activity, which you're still moving your arms, but not as fast. It's more organized. You have a visual target, right? We're throwing it on the bed. Maybe we're throwing it into a basket that we clean up our stuffed animals to. But now we're starting to slow down and organize because our visual system is focused on something and we're using our top brain and we're slowing down to do something, still getting the input. Then the next thing would be, something like maybe we like give Danielle loves to do this. She loves to like hold her stuffed animals and rock them and squeeze them and tuck them into bed and then giving your child deep pressure squeezes, or maybe the stuffed animal presses into their body or their feet to give them deep pressure. That's how you bring your child from like a high arousal level to a low arousal level. And you can practice those things during the day. Like say maybe you just get home from school and you're like, I know you're tired. I think your stuffed animals must be tired too. They've been working all day, depending on the age, right? You have to like meet them at their age level of play, but thinking if it's like a toddler or preschooler, and then like doing that little circuit for the stuffed animals to get them into bed. And it kind of gives them a way to reorganize themselves before you have like lunch or whatever you're doing in the afternoon. But you could also use it at bedtime. That's why I love these activities because you can really modify and adapt them. But it still stands true that doing like a red, yellow, green is gonna
Mhm.
help meet their need, organize them, and calm them down. And I don't like to say the way I said it, calm them down. I'm not trying to like, oh, calm your kid, but like calm their nervous system down from that
To get
higher.
them ready, yeah.
Yeah, deactivating that sympathetic nervous system, turning on the parasympathetic nervous system, feeling satisfied, feeling connected.
Mhm. And what you said earlier is, like, having things evolve too, so, like, even yesterday, Kason and Rowan and me, we had the blanket and we were doing it, but Kason wanted to do a game where, like, we would throw the stuffed animal up and then try to catch it back in the and
Yes.
that works too, right? You don't have to
Yes.
follow everything so
You don't.
specifically, it can
But it
evolve with
gives you
the
somewhere to
child.
start. It gives you, like,
Yeah,
somewhere to start that you don't have to think about, "Okay, what's proprioceptive about how could I give that to my child?" Like,
right.
you know that these activities these are, like, your baseline ones.
Yes.
Yeah.
I kind
And
of
even
look
with,
at
like,
these
the launch
fancy
too,
words and, like,
sure.
this is, like, backed by, like, actual research and data, like,
It is,
just
yeah.
follow your child
You
though
don't have
too.
to look it up. There's too much and it's overwhelming. That's why, like, I love having visuals. You do a lot of good visuals too. It's like, here it is. You don't have to think about it. When your brain starts going offline, you can look and see and
Mhm.
okay, let's do this.
Yes.
I'll just start, acting this one out, or I'll set this up and just start doing it. I won't even say, like, let's do it. I'm just going to start doing it and they're going to see
Mhm.
it and then maybe they'll join me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
Yes,
I'm gonna wrap it up because I promised to keep these episodes a little bit short, but I know I could
I
talk to
know,
you all
sorry.
day.
I'm not a concise person.
Me neither. I'm, like, very but this is a good episode. Like,
Yeah, but I'm
this was
proud of you
really
'cause
good.
we actually I'm proud of us 'cause we were
We
pretty
stayed on
concise.
track. Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Courtney, and we know your time is valuable, and we just appreciate you being here,
Thank you for
and we thank you to our listeners, and keep thinking like a kid, guys. Thank you for listening to Think Like a Kid. If this episode gave you an idea, a reframe, or a little win, the best way to say thank you is to share it with a friend or leave a quick review. It helps more parents and teachers find these conversations, and honestly, it means the world to me. Until next time, friend, keep meeting kids where they're at and keep thinking like a kid.